everyone, so today's tutorial is for beginners. For those of you that have no idea where to start with makeup, so I want to just keep it really simple and really easy to understand. One of the main questions I get is about foundation and what shades to choose for your skin type. That's a really difficult one for us to translate as YouTubers and makeup artists through the camera, because ideally I would take you shopping and help you choose there and then in the store. There are plenty of videos on YouTube about skin undertones and how to choose for your skin tone. My advice would be to match yourself to your chest, not your neck. Your neck rarely ever gets any sun because it's shaded by your chin. So always match to your chest if possible. If your face is slightly lighter, mine's always lighter than the rest of my body, so that's why I tend to take my makeup slightly darker if I'm wearing a foundation. So bear in mind, it's all just a guide, and it's just to give you an idea for beginners where to start, what the makeup's for and how it's used. Now lots of people ask me about primers. Primers are a great way to smooth out your skin texture and also to minimise the appearance of pores. Pores are this little section here that makes your skin look like orange peel. So when you look at an orange skin, it's slightly dimply, and that often happens here, sometimes here, and a little bit on your forehead. So the idea of a primer is to smooth that out so that when your foundation goes on, it goes on a smoother surface. Two things to remember when using primers is to use it very sparingly, and also if you're using a silicone-based primer, then you need to use a silicone-based foundation. If you use a water-based foundation over a silicone, then you'll realise that it starts to separate, and that's when it goes on and it looks like it's coming back off, or it's just separating. Now with both of them, you can usually tell on the back with the ingredients list as to whether it's silicone or water-based. It's not always that clear, sometimes it's trial and error, but you will know if they don't go together because they will separate on the skin. The one I'm going to use today is by Rimmel. This is the Fix and Perfect one. You only need a very light amount, you can't even see it on my fingers. Now not everybody needs a primer, again it just depends on your skin type. If you're dry you may not even need a primer, but if it is for skin texture purposes, again go with one that's going to smooth out the texture. I tend to only keep primers through the T section of the face, which is this section here. It's like a T, because these are the oily sections. They're also the areas that are most prominent with pores. It's a good idea to moisturise your face beforehand, even if you're oily. It's going to soften your skin and make it more supple, and it also accepts the foundation a lot easier. You'll find if you don't moisturise first, all those little areas that are slightly dry or textured, they're going to catch that foundation. When it comes to foundation, there are so many different kinds. You need to look for one that suits your skin type. You'll know if you're dry because you'll get patches and you won't be oily through your T section. If you're combination skin, you might just get a little bit oily around your nose or through your T section. And if you're oily, you'll know about it because your skin will become super shiny, especially across your forehead and down your nose, and if you touch it, you can feel it. You can carry around blotting papers to help you throughout the day. That way you can absorb some of the oil and take away some of that shine. So a lot of the foundations should tell you what they're for. For instance, the Maybelline foundation, this is the Fit Me Matte Poreless Foundation, and as you can see, it's for normal to oily skin. If your skin's quite dull and you're looking for something to brighten your skin, you could use something like the Rimmel Wakening Up foundation. This one contains vitamin C and it's great for illuminating your skin. This is all found on the front of the packaging and also the back, so you can just choose something geared towards your skin type. For me today, I'm going to use the EX1 Invisiwear foundation. This one is sold, or was sold, in Topshop. This one's oil-free, so it's great for my skin type because I'm oily. It's non-comedogenic, which means it won't clog your pores. And this one is geared towards people with more olivey skin tones. And as I've got a bit of tan, it's the summer months, I need something that's going to match my bottom half of my body because it's tanned. When it comes to foundation application, you can choose to use your fingers if you prefer a nice light coverage, or you can use a brush. There are no wrong ways to apply a foundation. The brush type will depend on the coverage you're looking for. Using a brush like this, it's like a buffing brush. It's quite dense, the bristles are all close together, and it's going to give you quite good coverage. The idea is the product doesn't slip between the bristles, so the majority of it goes onto your face. My preference to apply foundation to myself and clients is a duo fibre brush. It just means that the bristles at the top are slightly thinner. So you've got the black bristles at the bottom, which makes the brush denser from here in, and this part applies less of the foundation, so you get a bit more of a sheerer coverage, not as sheer as using your fingers. So I'm going to use my fingers today to apply it, and then I'm going to go over it with a beauty blender. This one is by Real Techniques, so you can get this in Superdrug or Boots or Ulta. It's about £5, I think. I've soaked this under the water, and you want to give it a really good soak and squeeze as you're running it under the tap. It's going to double in size, and then you're going to squeeze out all the excess water, so it's damp but it's not wringing wet. So I'm going to use my finger to apply the foundation first, This might come out quite yellow on camera. As you can see, this goes on lovely. It's lovely and sheer. For beginners, you don't want to be caking yourself in makeup. You want to cover your entire face, under your eyes, over your eyelids, and also don't forget to take it down your neck. Also remember with foundations, they're buildable. So once you've done one nice thin layer, you can go back in with a little bit more and apply it either all over your face again or just the areas that you need a bit more coverage. So once I've applied a couple of layers of my foundation, I'm going to go with my beauty blender and I'm going to press that over the skin. And this is going to make sure that all the foundation is pushed into the skin so it's nice and even. You want to be quite forceful with it, you don't want to punch yourself in the face, but just make sure you're really pressing it in, and it's going to give you the most natural finish and it's going to make it look like skin and not foundation. Concealers are like a foundation except they've got a lot more pigment in them, so it's going to cover those problematic areas. So the foundation goes on first as a veil to even out our skin tone, and then we go in with our concealer to spot conceal any of those areas that aren't covered by the foundation. Nowadays, much like foundation, you get different coverages of concealer. If your main concern is dark circles, you can buy a concealer specifically geared towards under eye brightening. It's going to correct the darkness and it's going to make it more illuminating because it's going to reflect light, making that area look less sunken. If you're specifically looking for a concealer to conceal blemishes, then you don't want one that's got those light reflecting pigments in, because often something that's light reflecting will make the bump of your blemish more prominent. So my favourite drugstore concealers are the Maybelline Instant Age Rewind for under the eyes. I also like the Fit Me concealer because it's not too thick in consistency, but it really blends out nicely under the eyes and it's almost completely invisible. And as you know, if you've followed me from way back when I first started YouTube, I've always loved the Soap & Glory Kick-Ass concealer. This one is a little bit thicker in consistency, but it covers more. And this one also comes with a setting powder in it. So I always like to dab the excess off on the back of my hand. Going straight in with this can often be a little bit too much. I'm just going to use my finger. So I'm going to press that underneath the eye and just work that in with my finger. The warmth from your finger is going to help to melt that product in, and you only need a very small amount, and with what's left on your finger you can slowly bring it down a bit further, and this is going to make that transition from your light colour down to your cheek a bit more natural. Once you've got that on, you then want to go with your beauty blender, and this is going to make it look so much more natural. You're going to press over it and just work that over the top, bouncing it. And as you can see, it looks so much more natural now with using a beauty blender. Real Techniques also do mini little sponges, so you can get that right underneath the eye and you would dampen this exactly the same. So sometimes I won't wear concealer, and a lot of you notice that in videos. I'm doing it today just to show you the process, but if you don't need it, don't use it. To spot the conceal, I'm going to use the Soap & Glory Kick-Ass concealer just because it's got a bit more coverage. I'm going to use a cotton bud. So I'm just going to gently tap over the areas that I've got the blemishes and then use my finger to lightly press over it. It's slightly warm so it melts product into the skin, and use the tapping motion just to press it in. To set that in place, I'm going to use the powder and I'm going to use my little Real Techniques sponge. I'm going to press that over the areas that we've just concealed, and that's going to set it in place and make sure it doesn't move throughout the day. If you use a translucent one, it's got no colour to it. It will sometimes lighten your makeup, but then go over it with your finger and just press that in. Once you take off that excess powder that's sitting on top of the skin, it won't look so pale. If you find you get a lot of creasing with your concealer, a little tip would be to take some tissue, pull it in half so it's just one ply, and then before you set your concealer, press that underneath your eye, and it's going to soak up any excess oil from the concealer and just leave behind the pigment, and then you set that in place with your translucent powder, and that should help you with some of the creasing issues. Before we set the rest of the base, I'm going to go in with a bronzer. You can use a powder bronzer or you can use a cream based bronzer, it's completely up to you. The one I'm going to use today is the Cassie Lomaz Whipped Bronzer. So this one is sold in Superdrug. It's an affordable bronzer and it's a whipped texture. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. It's a bit like a mousse. We're going to use this to warm up the skin, so we're going to tackle those areas that the sun would hit. I'm going to use a brush. This one's by Zoeva, but you can pick up any kind of small brush that's for the face. This one is synthetic in bristles. This one's a vegan brush. But yeah, anything that's synthetic and not natural hair, you can use with cream-based products because it's not going to clump in the hair. So apply a small amount to your brush and dab off the excess onto the back of your hand. And then we're going to work that around the areas that the sun would hit. So we're going to go across the cheekbones. You can use it as a contour if you like, but I want to go for a summer look, so we want to apply it at the areas that the sun would hit. So again, across the cheekbone. This is going to make us look really healthy and like we've been on holiday. We're going to take a small amount around the hairline. Again, this is where the sun would hit across these sections around the top of your head. I'm going to take a small amount of that across my nose. Next we're going to use a little bit of blush. The one that I'm using is by Anyway Cosmetics, and this one is in the shade Riot. And as you can see, it's a duo colour, so it's got 2 shades to it, and it's a nice coral colour which is beautiful for the summer. If you aren't a fan of coral, then you can use this one. This one is called Revel and it's a pinky shade. You can work this straight onto the skin from the bullet, but I'm pretty sure it will be quite intense. So for safety and caution, I'm going to work both colours on my finger. Yeah, it is quite intense. And just blot a little bit onto my skin and then use a clean finger to work that in. If you put it onto the apples of the cheeks, it's where you smile, this little ball, that's the apple of your cheek, and this is where it's going to give you that flushed appearance that makes you look nice and youthful. Even if you're slightly more mature, then definitely still go for something that's kind of pinky and youthful, because it's going to bring life to your skin. You can also go in with your beauty blender and just press that over the top, and it's just going to soften everything and make sure it's nice and even. For brows, I'm going to fill them in using the MUA Luxe Power Brow. This is the 3-in-1 liner. So it comes with a pencil on one side and it's also got a brush on the other. My brow hairs are naturally quite ashy, and I sometimes find with Drugstore eyebrow pencils, they're a little bit on the warm side. The Zoeva pencil is £7.50, which I still think is really affordable in comparison to something like an Anastasia Beverly Hills. They're in the region of around £15 each. So I do have a tutorial on brows and you can see that in more depth, so I won't go into too much detail now. That will show you how to fill in your brows and completely groom them. You don't have to do lips. If you're not comfortable and you're quite new to all this and you want to go with a nude lip, then you can definitely do that. This one is Velvet Matte Liquid Lipstick by B, which you can get in Superdrug, and the colour is called Doo Wop. And it's a really beautiful kind of orangey coral shade. I'm going to use this pencil. It's the Rosy for Autograph, sold in Marks and Spencer, so you can get it down the high street. I think the shade is, I don't know if this is the shade, but it's N012. I will confirm that in the description bar. But what I like about these pencils is they come with a little sharpener on the end. Perfect for summer. For eyes, we're going to keep it really simple. I think we'll just do a very soft contour to the outer edge and then apply some individual lashes. And I do have a tutorial on how to apply them. They're really simple, especially if you're not used to applying strip lashes. So for eyeshadow, I'm going to be using this one by MUA Cosmetics, and this one is the Matte Soft Suedes. So the first colour we're going to be using is this one here. And the brush I'm going to be using is this one by B, which is also sold at Superdrug. And this one is their eye blending brush. So we're going to swirl the brush into it and just tap off all the excess. So then taking the tip of the brush, we're going to put that into the socket of the eye. If you use your finger, you can feel where the socket is. That is your outer V. It's where your eye creases at the top there and comes out. And if your eyelash continued upwards, so it's this little V shape. And we're going to be applying it in that area. So we're going to apply it into that socket and let the brush do the work for us. So we're going to work it in circular motions into that socket. Helps if you close your eye and then just work what's left on the bristles backwards and forwards. See how when I'm going backwards and forwards, it's following my natural eye socket. I'm going to apply a second lot on this eye. Again, working that backwards and forwards through the socket, letting the brush do the work for us. And this is really suitable for any age. If you've got hooded lids, then you can just lift the hood of the eye up. Again, work that in the circular motions, let the hood drop again and then go over the hood in the same motion, so you're still covering that entire area there. I'm going to go with a very light amount of this darker shade, so we're letting the tip of the bristles go into that socket area, and I'm very lightly going backwards and forwards with it. And you see how it's just defined that area and it's a bit more intense. I'm now going to take an angled brush and taking the darker shade in this palette, I'm going to be using this to press along my lash line just to make it look fuller. So we're going to press really close to the lashes, a bit thicker on the outer edge. And then as we get closer to the middle of the eye, we're going to get closer to the root. And this is just going to line the lid, but very softly. So again, suitable for any age group and especially for beginners if you're not used to applying liquid eyeliner. You can also take a very small amount of that underneath those lower lashes, and that's going to frame your eye. The mascara I'm going to use is the Maybelline's Colossal Big Shot. This is a new favourite of mine. I love the wand on it. It's really small. So when you apply mascara, you want to wiggle at the root and then extend through the length of the eyelash. I also like to coat both sides of the lashes to really make sure you've got rid of any sort of fall down from your eyeshadow on the back of your lashes. So you can leave it with just mascara, or you can apply some individual clusters, and again I'm going to leave the tutorial for that down below. It's a nice way for you to learn how to apply the lashes. It's really simple and really easy to do. I'm going to put some on now and I will be back. Going back into the eyeshadow palette, I'm going to take this colour and I'm going to work that into the hollows of the cheeks. Because it's a matte finish and it's a powder, you can use it as a contour colour. I'm going to tap all the excess off the brush. So much like it was with the socket of the eye, you can feel where the hollows of your cheeks is. This is where it naturally sinks. So we're going to put the brush in and just work it in very light circular motions into the hollows of the cheeks. And this is just going to give you a little bit more of a sculpted cheekbone. So you want to work that in circular motions going up at this angle. And you kind of don't want to come past sort of in line with the edge of your eye. So as we haven't set the face yet, I'm going to use a cream highlighter. This is the Maybelline Master Strobing Stick. And this is a really beautiful colour, and this is just one that you can apply directly from the bullet onto the skin, or you can use your finger just to pat it in. I personally find that the cream ones are a little bit more flattering for all age groups, so even if you are slightly more mature, especially around here where people get fine lines, if you're using a frosted kind of highlighter, it's going to enhance those areas. Using something that's soft like a cream, it's going to be more subtle. Adding a small highlight to the top of your Cupid's bow makes your lips look a little bit more pouty and a bit plump. You can also apply a very small amount to the inner corner of your eye. Again, it makes you look more awake and a bit more youthful and just glowy. Once you've done the eye makeup, sometimes you realise that bronzer just needs to be a little bit more intense. But it's all optional, so just do with what you're comfortable with. The reason I'm doing it is because it's about balance. So I'm setting the skin now, I've completed the makeup. I'm going to use a powder to set it in the areas that I need, and then I'm going to use a fixing spray. Sometimes we don't want to set these areas because we'll lose the glow and that dewiness to the skin. If you're oily, you just want to set anywhere that you naturally get oily. So the one I'm going to use is the Rimmel Match Perfection Translucent Powder. And I'm going to use a fluffy brush to do that. The reason I'm using a fluffy brush is because it's nice and big and it will just cover more surface area. It's not too dense in bristles, so it's not going to apply too much of the product to the skin. So we're only going to apply it down the T section of the face, which is this section here, just to eliminate any unwanted shine. There are a number of different setting sprays you can use. We know a lot of the high-end ones, but there are some really good drugstore fixing sprays. So the one I'm going to use is by MUA, which is sold in Superdrug, and it's the Pro Base Fixing Mist. And you use it like any other fixing spray. You just hold it about 20 centimetres away from your face and then start misting. This one really mists, it gets everywhere. It's affordable and it does the job, even if it does soak you. And that is my easy drugstore summer makeup tutorial for beginners. I hope you've enjoyed it. If I haven't covered anything, please ask in the comment section below and I will definitely do my best to get back to you. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. It's on screen now and it's clickable, as is my previous tutorial if you missed it. My social handles are also on screen, so if you want to follow me outside of YouTube, you can catch me on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, all of them. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon. Bye!